Hi guys, it wasn't scientific, but I conducted a poll on the channel on Thursday that had some interesting results. At the time of the recording of this video, there were about 2,500 replies. The question was as follows. After a French scientist was deported over his criticisms of Trump's cuts to federal projects, would you feel comfortable travelling to the US? 88% voted no. Here Canadian MP Charlie Angus sent a warning to his citizens to avoid visiting the US. Now, is this a real concern or is it just a storm in a teacup?
Over the last 3 months, our nation has faced an unprecedented threat from our nearest neighbor. A threat to our borders, a threat to our sovereignty, a threat to our very right to exist as an independent democratic nation. Donald Trump thought we were going to be an easy mark, that we'd be a pushover. Oh, how wrong he was. And now Canada standing up to him has made Canada the front line in the defense against the MAGA ideology. So no wonder Donald Trump and MAGA are feeling pretty angry at Canada. But what concerns me is the targeting of Canadian citizens who are crossing the border to work or to visit. We have seen too many stories of citizens being pulled out of airport lines and being fingerprinted and deported as though they were criminals. Citizens being kidnapped through illegal detention by ICE. And it's not just Canadians. We see the attack on backpackers, students, doctors, professors. I am here today to say to Canadians to avoid travel to the United States if at all possible, and to call our government to stand up for our Canadian citizens who are being denied their rights by arbitrary detention in the United States today. The Canada must stand up for our citizens and for the rule of law. Because what we're seeing, for example, with cops pulling over the folk duo Cassie and Maggie to harass them for being Canadian, is not the actions of a democratic nation. People whose phones are being seized and searched for any kind of incriminating evidence that they're somehow progressive or woke, that's not the actions of a democratic nation. That is the creep of totalitarianism. That is the creep of fascism, and we need to call that out.
Well said. Finally, a politician is describing it as it is, fascism. This is the creep of fascism. As was pointed out here, the border security are taking people's phones, checking to see if they have written anything critical of Donald Trump. This is how bad things have got. Now, it's easy for us on the other side of the channel, other side of the pond, I should say, to say, look, you know, maybe people should avoid traveling to the US. But this is much more difficult, of course, for Canadians and for Mexicans because they share a border with the US, and many people, you know, work on one side of the border, they have friends and family on the other side of the border, and it's much more difficult for them to avoid travel. But it's right for Canadian politicians to stand up to Trump. He's a bully. He wants to become a dictator, it seems. And if you allow a bully, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. If you allow them to run roughshod over your rights, they'll continue to do that. So it's important that somebody stands up. And it's great that an MP from Canada is standing up to Trump. But the Canadians, I think, in general, are doing that. They're in a very difficult spot. They have this crazy neighbor on their border. They have to share a border with the United States. They have businesses that cross the border, people crossing the border to go to their businesses, to go to their workplaces, to meet with friends and family. This is something they can't really avoid. But these are pretty dark times when you have a Canadian MP telling his citizens to avoid traveling to the US, not because of some terrorist threat, but because they could be arrested and sent off to some gulag in Central America, which is actually happening at the moment. How do we come back from this? How do we turn the corner? I think we can't wait 4 years for Donald Trump to be removed from office. The pressure has to start from within the United States now. People have to organize. People have to stand up to the Republican Party. I think if they put pressure on the Republican congressmen and senators, they in turn will put pressure on Trump. But something has to happen. There has to be some sort of organized campaign to claw back these rights that have been taken from American citizens, to undo the damage of MAGA and Trump. Otherwise, it will be like the 1930s. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks for watching.